The Mayor of City of Lima, Ohio, David Berger. Mayor David Berger.
I thought you had 10 minutes.
I am not a speaker. Give me one-on-one, I am. Not like this.
All right. Well, thank you, Cindy, for having us here. I'm not here by myself. I have staff with me, and this is what we call a city focus meeting, where we move around town once a quarter with conjunction with the neighborhood associations, but also inviting the public. And basically, we talk about what's going on in the community, answer questions, and talk generally about community projects. I want to thank Janice Sunderhouse for allowing us to be here at the 8th Street Clinic of the Health Partners of Western Ohio. And right before we started, actually, Janice took Steve Cleaves and I on a little tour. I thought maybe there were 2 dentists here at the clinic. In fact, there are 8 or 9. And looking at all of their facilities, it's a terrific opportunity to provide dental care to people in our community in a sustained way that makes certain that their teeth improve and they can stay healthy. So it's really a terrific facility. So we appreciate being here. I want to begin with Vince Osier, who has to go referee some games with his son. So Vince is our HR director for the city, and he'll have some remarks about what's happening with our human resource functions. Vince?
Thanks, Mayor. As the mayor mentioned, I've got a son that's playing midget football. I actually won't be refereeing this evening, but he's got a scrimmage, so I'm going to try to get there as quick as I can. As the mayor mentioned, we've got some things going on in HR, and specifically there's going to be some employment opportunity that's going to be coming up over the next probably couple of months. Several positions that the Civil Service Board is going to be testing for. One of them is the Construction and Maintenance 1 position, and that is the position that you see a lot of people working on the streets. They're basically the street workers. We'll be conducting a civil service exam for that position. That's been scheduled for Saturday, September 21st is the actual date of the exam. And the deadline for filing applications is Wednesday, September 11th. I don't know that ad's actually appeared in the paper yet, but it should be appearing on our website within the next few days. And so that's one of the entry-level positions that we have coming up over the next few months. We're also going to be hiring, I believe, it looks like we're going to at least be conducting a civil service exam for the position of park ranger. And again, that test date has been established, and again, that's going to be Saturday, September 21st will be the actual test date, and then the deadline for applications again is Wednesday, September 11th. So if you're interested in that, again, that advertisement or that position notification should be appearing in the Lima News very soon if it hasn't already, and then we'll have it on the website in the next day or two. And then there are 3 other positions that we will be, or the Civil Service Board will be at least establishing test dates for. Those are not established as of yet. But one of those is going to be police officer. We'll be conducting another civil service exam for the position of police officer. And I'm not exactly sure how many positions that they're going to fill at this point in time, but I do know that they will be at least selecting some candidates off of that list. The other position is what we call our utility field services learner position. These are the folks that work on the infrastructure for the sewer collection system and the water distribution system. And I think as many as, maybe possibly as many as 5 people will be selected from that eligibility list, because I know that department's relatively down and they're looking to fill some of those positions. That test date, again, has not been established as of yet. I think it will hopefully be in the next, within the next couple of weeks that we should establish a test date. And of course, that test date will appear in the Sunday edition of the Lima News, and it should appear on our website once we have that test date set. And then the other position, besides police officer and utility field services, that have yet to been, the test dates have yet to been established, is our service maintenance mechanic, and that would be in either the water treatment or the wastewater treatment division of utilities. And again, that test date has not yet been established. Those will, of course, be another entry-level position that will be coming available. Just to remind everybody, in case you're wondering, most entry-level positions at the city require taking a civil service exam, and depending on how, first of all, you have to pass the exam. Depending on how you score on the exam determines your position on the eligibility list. Now, something that there were some charter changes in the last 3 years that occurred, and the board and city council, the Civil Service Board and city council, has adopted a new rule for determining the number of candidates that we can actually interview off of any eligibility list. It used to only be 3 for every position that was to be filled. It's now 10. So there's a lot more people that can get to the interview process based on the way the civil service rules have changed. And of course, that theoretically creates greater opportunity for everybody that chooses to participate in the process. So we would encourage folks to do that. Again, watch the paper and the city's website for more announcements on when these test dates are going to occur. Yes, ma'am.
Could you give me the construction maintenance deadline date?
The deadline date is, let me confirm that, but I believe it's Wednesday, September 11th. Yes, ma'am. Wednesday, September 11th. And typically it's, I believe by 4 o'clock, you've got to have that, typically is what it is. You turn those into the Civil Service Secretary's office, which is 212 North Elizabeth Street. Okay. All right. Anybody else got any other questions? I think that's all I have. Thank you for your time, folks. You can contact our office if you do have questions later. If you think about them, contact HR at the city. Thanks.
Okay. Enjoy the midget football scrimmage. Steve Cleaves, our finance director, is here. And I think the last time, 1 quarter ago, he ended up at last position in the presentation, so we'll start him off. We'll see what kind of tone he establishes. Sometimes he's on a downward slope. We'll see what he does today.
Well, good evening. I'm glad to be here. As this chart shows, we are on an upward slope. We have gotten ourselves into a fairly good financial situation over the past couple of years. It's been a long battle, especially with the recession which hit us in 2008. But we finished the year 2012 with over a 30% cash balance as a percentage of our annual spending, which is extremely good. And what this chart shows is our history and the national averages since 2002, which is a little over 10 years ago. Back then, you can see that the national average, which is the blue, maybe I better turn it this way so it'll show on the camera. The national average, which is in the blue, it was at about 20%, and the city of Lima was at about 8%. That would be our cash balance as a percentage of our spending during the year. And we struggled for a number of years, implemented a lot of cost-cutting measures and efficiency improvements, hiring freezes, and other reorganizations. And we managed, leading into 2007, to increase our cash balance up to about 15%. We almost doubled it. But we had in place a lot of cost-saving measures, which was going to get us up to the national average within about a year. Well, the Great Recession hit. But since we had those cost-saving measures in place, we didn't drop our cash balance. We managed to maintain it, as opposed to what happened to the average city across the country. Their cash balance dropped from about 25% down to like a 17% range. A lot of them were like 15 to 17. So ours stayed flat at about the 15 range. And actually, when the recession was still in full bore in 09, 10, and easing off a bit in 11, we increased our cash balance through 12 up to 30%. It's actually more than 30. We've had about a $8 million cash balance at the end of 2012. It was actually $8.4 million. And so far this year, it's ranged between 8 million and 9 million from month to month, and that varies because of when payrolls fall and how the revenue comes in from various sources. So we are in pretty good shape, and we intend to keep this cash balance at this range, 25 to the 30% plus range. We are engaged currently in some major capital purchases to spend a little bit of that cash. We're purchasing another fire truck this year, several cruisers in the police department, and some other vehicles in the public works area, plus other assets such as computers and software and upgrades to some of our automated systems. So we came through the worst of the recession and actually didn't suffer what other states have and cities have largely went through in the past 3 or 4 years. The state of Ohio currently has 24 local governments in fiscal emergency and 34 in fiscal distress. You know, the state of Ohio was hit harder than what these national averages show. So we have 30 to 40 plus local governments with a cash balance pretty close to zero. So things are looking up. City is in good fiscal shape, and we hope to continue with our capital purchase program and to maintain our services going forward. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Do we benefit significantly from the stimulus packages?
The question was, do we benefit significantly from the stimulus packages? Well, we had received a significant amount of money, and I think I'll let the mayor highlight what those were.
You're talking about the stimulus from what was called the ARRA money, ARRA. And at the time that the federal government put that in place, we submitted proposals for over $60 million in requests. Ultimately, we were able to secure about $20 million in funding for about 8 different projects, which included everything from energy conserving measures, where we could we replaced all the city's light fixtures in our buildings. We improved all the and replaced all the stoplights with LED lights. Those have all been through stimulus money. The Vine Street grade separation and a variety of street improvement projects that took place. So we did benefit from that, and then we had other funding, particularly from the state, in the form of a variety of grants. Over the last 4 years, basically we competed for and received about $27 million in state and federal money for community projects. Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm talking about the, for example, we were able to get funding for what's called NSP, Neighborhood Stabilization Money, and we've been able to take down about 200 houses that were abandoned all across the city, many of which were in the South End. We have, I mentioned the Vine Street grade separation. The underpass on Vine Street was a major project that took place. We've also been doing, as I've mentioned, the traffic lights and street lights throughout the city. The city owns about 1/3 of the street lights. So 2/3 are owned by American Electric Power. All of the ones we owned, we replaced with LED fixtures. So those have all been accomplished in the last 2 years. We've also done a number of street projects, such as the rebuild of the changing out the one-way streets on Spring and Elm. We also did the reconstruction on Elm Street. So those are a number of the projects that come to mind. We're continuing to compete for money and have, on a continuous basis, a set of projects in the pipeline. We design them. We have to go compete for the funding. This year, we were intending to do a rebuild of West and Elizabeth Streets. The bids went out, and unfortunately, they came back with only one bidder, and it was almost 40% higher than the engineer's estimate. So we said, well, we don't have the money for the additional cost. We'll rebid that this fall. We expect to get better prices this fall, and it'll be under construction next spring. Janice?
I just want to say that the Vine Street overpass really improves the existence out here when you don't have railroads, and we have probably 2 or 3 squads coming to take people to the hospital, and having that available and not have to jump over railroad tracks and get trapped out here has really been a big improvement. So.
That's good to know. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Rick Stolle, our Parks Director, have him come up and talk about what's been happening in the parks.
A little worried. I thought Steve's chart was upside down at first. Yeah, I was a little nervous. It's always good to be here at the Health Center in the Blue Room. A lot of great things been going on since we were last here. It is a privilege to work in our park system. We just completed our playground program. We're looking forward to our fall activities, which will include a lot of recreational things for the kids, primarily in basketball later on in the fall. But right up front, when school gets back in gear, we'll have our volleyball going on for the girls, and then boys and girls will be coming back in with all their activities with youth basketball. So those sign-ups will be going on. Those will be on our website, and that information will be coming up. Last year was a very successful fall for us, and as we look at those recreational programming opportunities, each year, we're always saying the more people we can get out and get involved in the program can grow the programs and keep the kids busy and keep them involved in things. And we often find, I spent about 25 years in education, and I always found that kids that were involved in an extracurricular activity, they did better in school. And everyone thought, oh, no, it's a distraction to what they're doing in school. Absolutely not. The ones that have to organize their time and pick their priorities and are regimented on what they want to do. And then you also have that extra adult that liaison saying, hey, you getting your homework done? You're paying attention, you're behaving in school, all those good things that help, those kind of programs go. So we look forward to that getting started here again. As soon as the kids get back in school, we'll be doing sign-ups for volleyball, and then, of course, in October and through February with all of our basketball programming. So it is a good time. I thought a lot of the things we did this summer, getting out with our kids and getting them to opportunities that they would not normally get involved with. We got a chance to go down to the Neil Armstrong Museum and spend a day down there with the kids. We got to go out to the equestrian therapy program and get them involved with the different activities that go on out there and get around some of the team building and so forth. I know one of the things was, when you go to look at these opportunities that are out there, a lot of the kids don't always get this chance, especially during the summer months, when we want to also encourage the continuing of learning. And that's one of the great things that the playground program has, I think. Very well structured, and we look forward to that each and every year. While that's going on, we're still trying to maintain about 400 acres of land that we're charged with throughout the park system and in different areas along the Riverwalk and of course, the recreational sites at Simmons Field and at College Street. So a lot of things going on. And as you know, this year has been a real challenge for us to get our summer baseball in and our adult softball, which is just wrapping up here in the next couple of weeks due to all the weather. You know, no one told me we were going to get 6.5 inches of rain in April, followed by another 6.5 inches of rain in July. Usually by this time, our mowers are put away and we're involved in other things, getting things done. But you know, we're just like you guys at home. We're continuing to mow, you know, and we're going through it and getting to it. And you know, why we're enjoying the green grass this time of year, it's also got to be cut every every week, and so it takes us about 5.5 days to get through our entire rotation with the mowers and the staff that we have. And it seems like we just get done and we start it back again, but that's okay. That's what we're there to do. We want to make the parks the inviting space for the Lima community to get out and enjoy all that green space that Lima has. So anything you would like to get involved with, anything you see, hey, this could help here, or here's an idea, we're always open to suggestions. We'll start doing our strategic planning and stuff for our budget and all the things that come with that here in October as well, getting our plans in line for next year's programs so that we can get those up. And we just got out of some meetings last week with wrapping up all of our summer programming, and then we put those to pen and paper and start strategizing for the future. So if you've got some ideas, you got some suggestions, you got some thoughts, we're always available to listen to those. In the meantime, get out and enjoy this beautiful weather we're having, and in the park system, and just have a great time with what Lima has to offer. Mayor?
Any questions for Rick? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The Star Spangled Spectacular. One of the things that we talk about every year is, it's all about getting people out and enjoying, the 4th of July and all the things that go with it, and the fireworks that come with it. And this year, we were literally meeting about every half hour from 4 o'clock to about 6, 7 o'clock to make sure that the weather. We had like 4 different weather advisors in there, and all of a sudden everyone becomes a meteorologist. Oh, this one's going to move this way, it's going to move that way. But we made the right call ultimately and moved forward, and just a lot of great information, and people really turned out to enjoy the event. So thank you. Great.
Where can I go to get some information on equestrian therapy program?
On the Equestrian Therapy Program, they have a website, or you can call our office. We have the contact information. Give us a call, and we'd be more than happy to get you their information.
Because my kid went to the park program, and he was really excited about it, so now it's a lot of other kids that would like to go.
Terrific. Yes.
We didn't have information on it.
Just give us a call, and we'll get you set up with that. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
What I wanted to ask more about, where do they get the information about the horses and everything?
Give us a call. We'll get you their number at the Equestrian Therapy, or you can look them up online as well. And no, this was our first visit down to the Equestrian Therapy Program. Yes, we had some opportunities to we cut a little bit over here, and we put some money in this spot, and one of them was we wanted to get out and see more things that Lima has to offer in the surrounding community, and so that was one of the spots that we thought would be a great hit for the kids. And one of the things we also did, we had a Zoo to You program that we were able to bring in from the Columbus Zoo. They brought in, I think, 8 or 10 different animals for us, and one of them was a baby kangaroo, which was kind of neat, but it just wasn't the reptiles. I wasn't going anywhere near those snakes or anything. But it's just $30 a child for the summer. It's an 8-week program. It's very reasonable for it. Yeah, we would love anyone. It's a great partnership for us this year, and we look forward to developing more of those in the future. Anything else?
Now, what about families that might have kids and they on a budget and they can't afford it? Is there programs that can
Absolutely, we'll work with everybody. We'll work with everybody to make it happen. We value the experience. It's always been there. We will find a way to work with people that they commit to some type of a budget process to help make that happen for the kids. Absolutely. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And Mr. Caprella, he's in the middle of a conversation. Mike is the Deputy Director of Utilities Department, and he's been in charge of all the rain this summer. And so if you have any questions about ruined activities, Mike's the guy to pose the questions.
Right. Rick complains about mowing the grass, and I'm happy to see the rain because we fill the reservoirs up. So, you know, it's a good trade-off, and everybody needs water, right? So, yeah. So, I think this is the first one of these meetings in probably 6 or 7 years that I can come up and say we've completed a couple huge projects, as you've probably seen in the news. You know, the reservoir was about 7 years in the making, the new Furl Williams Reservoir. The reservoir's full, and when it rains, we can fill it. And, you know, and the neat thing about that reservoir is, you know, it's our largest reservoir. It holds 5.1 billion gallons of water. It's huge. And we built a pump station to pump water out of the river. After it rains and the river goes up, we can pump up to 100 million gallons a day out of the river to fill that reservoir. So, I mean, we built a big pump station because we have to get that water when it's there, because once it goes past us, it's gone. So we build big pump stations so we can fill them reservoirs. So, because if we had to rely on what water flows down the river, it does dry up sometimes, and we don't have enough water. So we need those large storage reservoirs. So we finished that last year. The reservoir is full. We've used out of it. We filled it back up, and it's good water. We also made a major addition at our water plant and put online last year. It's been just a year ago now. We put our carbon facility on at the water treatment plant. We built a granular activated carbon addition to the water plant. And we did a lot of other stuff besides just the carbon. We changed out all the electrical gear, and I know I'm going to bore you to death with all these, but it's important for the community because everybody, I always say we're the most important department because, you wake up with us in the morning, when you go to bed with us at night, when you flush it down. Howard, no questions from you. And we service about 75,000 people in this community from our water system. It's a large system, a very large system. We take about 23 million gallons a day out of our reservoir complex. It's a lot of water. And there's only one in the whole Northwest Ohio that would be larger than us, would be Toledo. So, I mean, we're a very large system, very large wastewater system. We've got a lot of projects. We've got those projects going, but we have a lot more in the works right now. I had some conversations with the mayor this afternoon. We are right now in the process of starting to design a new water main to service the Global facility. They're on South Main. They're going to need a lot of water. They're going to buy some raw water from us in the quantities of millions of gallons. So we have to run a water line down. So we're starting the design of that line now so we can have that water there for that industrial complex when they're up and ready to go. So we're working on that right now. So we have a lot of projects, within the department. Some of the big ones are finished now, but there's just a lot of little ones or medium-sized ones, whatever, that are in the works. Always something different every day. The reason I was a few minutes late getting here, there's always something interesting. I get a call from one of our field people and says, Mike, can you come out to, I don't want to mention the exact area, but somebody hit one of our pipes. Well, it just happened to be it was one of our raw water pipes, a big 42-inch pipe. Somebody's digging a swimming pool in their backyard over an easement of ours, and they get into one of our pipes. I'm thinking, so always something, but it's just going to have to move it a little bit. I'm sorry, but you're not taking that 42-inch pipe out of there. It just doesn't work that way. So we're very busy with water and sewer projects. We administer the garbage contract, but we don't have the employees that do that, but we administer the contract for that. So my secretaries would tell you that takes up most of their time, just answering calls about that and you know, when people have a container that's broken, you know, they can call the offices, and, you know, Allied Waste comes out, replaces that. And so, you know, that's just one of the many things we do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have or anything about the department. If not, I'll, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you know, like when people cut grass and they leave it out in the street and everything, and that goes down in our sewers, you know. Anything like we can change?
Well, if you notice this year, Saul Allen was out publicly telling people, don't put your clippings in the street. For one thing, it's not illegal to put it out there. And if they catch them, you know, they can, you know, I don't know what, you know, maybe you can ask the chief when he comes up here, you know, what the penalties may be, because I'm not sure, but it does cause a problem because he gets down and he gets in the storm sewers and it can plug them up. You get heavy rains, and if you don't have the full flow of that sewer to take it away and it's half full of grass, it's going to just back up on the streets. Eventually it works its way out of there because it, you know, it's organic and it decomposes and goes away, but it takes a while. So it can cause flooding problems, yes. So.
Why our annual sewer bill keeps going up?
Really, that hasn't, no, the EPA is the reason your annual sewer bill goes up. The Environmental Protection Agency is the reason. It's the regulations that they keep throwing at us without any funding to support it. And we have been dealing with the EPA for, well, since they were founded back in 1970, and they just keep growing and throwing more regulations at us. We have been actively negotiating, you know, a consent decree with them that spells out what we have to do. But we have about $150 million worth of projects we're going to have to do over the next 25 years in the sewer system, mandated through the EPA. And it could have been a lot worse if we hadn't negotiated some of that stuff down and a little more time to do some of the projects. But yes, yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, you know, that all adds to it. You know, stormwater is all part of that, although stormwater is part of Public Works, but, you know, that's all part of the stormwater. But there's some combined systems where there's stormwater and sanitary water together, and it, you know, and the clippings get in there. So yes, it can cause problems. So that was a good question. So yes. You know, they do that again. Howard Elstro from Public Works. That's not part of my department. But yes, oh yeah, they have street sweepers that go out. Now I know they've had some mechanical problems with them, and they do sweep them up. But the problem is, you know, cars go by, and you know, they just, you know, some of those grass clippings almost get airborne, and you just kind of, they would just work their way towards them storms because they're a little bit lower and a little bit of rain, and then it washes it right down there. So you. Yeah, oh yes, yes. There's street sweepers, and they're out all the time. But how, yeah. Yeah. Any other, yes, ma'am. Depends on where you're talking about out there. I'll have to check. I don't know which exact area Pike Run. You know, talk to me afterwards, and we'll see. Okay. Okay. So yeah, and I'll tell you, everything that needs mowed right now is, because of the wetness, is behind. I probably have never received as many calls this year as people call about high grass at the reservoirs. And, you know, we have hundreds of acres of grass that we need to mow and utilities around the reservoirs. And it's just tough keeping up with them because it's been so wet and so much rain. And then when you get wetness on those steep banks, it's really hard to mow. So we've been a little behind on our mowing. So everybody has, I think, this year because of the wetness. And it has been a very wet year. So. Yeah. I have no clue. Yeah, so yeah.
The tracks that are on, I believe, Union Street, I don't know who to address the question to, but I know there's a lot of weeds and stuff up there that need cutting down.
On the tracks, that's, yeah, okay.
On that particular track.
Yeah.
But it looks awful down there.
Okay. Save all them questions for Howard Elstro when he gets up here, because he'd be good. That's right, yeah. Anything to do with street sweeping, railroads, whatever. Yeah. Anything else, water and sewer, I'd be happy to answer, but anything else? Yes, ma'am. The rain barrels, I think you can get them through the Ottawa River Coalition. I see ads in the paper, I think almost every day we can get them through them. So, yeah. So, matter of fact, I think I seen one in this morning's paper. So you can get those through the Ottawa River Coalition. Their number's probably in the book.
There's information at the water department also.
Yeah, on those, yes. So. Okay.
Water barrels, you can make your own water barrels. Well, we can make our own water barrels.
Sure.
If you want to learn how to make water, we can make our own water.
Sure. Paint them any way you like them then. Make them fit in, so. Okay, well, thank you very much, and give it back to the mayor. Thank you.
I do want to comment on the issue of grass clippings, because it's something that Saul has gotten to be pretty passionate about. He's not here this evening because he had another responsibility, but when folks, whether it's as an individual or often contractors who are cutting grass and it blows out into the street, the issues become that even if we don't have rain and flooding that results from the blockage, the other thing that happens is that when that goes down into the storm sewers and rots, that's when and it's dry, that's when you get the smells in the neighborhood. So these all become, kind of self-inflicted conditions. And when neighbors are doing this, we really need to say, hey, folks, let's not. You're making it bad for all of us. So it really does, as a community, we have to take care of ourselves. And this is one of those simple little things. Don't blow it into the street, Or if you do, then blow it back up and sweep it up, but don't let it go down into the storm sewers. It causes all kinds of problems for everybody. And then once we get into the fall, if all of that is still in the sewers and hasn't flushed its way through, it becomes flooding that turns to ice. So, all of these conditions change on us as the seasonal changes occur, and when we abuse those systems, they come back and bite us, as residents. So we want to ask people to pay attention to how they manage their property, and simple little things can make it so much better for all of us. So I want to ask our Public Works Director, Howard Elstro, to talk about activities going on in his department as well.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And sorry that Mike Caprella was in over his head. Some of those questions I can answer, and the mayor already touched on the issue with grass. Public Works Department is the most diverse department probably in the city organization. We have Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, which is staffed by Mr. Stolle. We have the Street Division, which is staffed by Saul Allen, which takes care of road maintenance, street lights, street signals, the mowing of right-of-ways, snow control, as well as the maintenance for the stormwater system. Not the sanitary sewer system, that is with utilities with Gary Shealy and Mike Caprella, but the stormwater itself that flows through our streets and into those catch basins, that is us. And that's why Saul is watchful of the grass clippings and knows that it's causing problems. We also have a building department which oversees all the commercial building throughout the county, as well as residential construction inside the city. And they also manage all the permits and licenses which are issued through the city at a counter located in the municipal building on the second floor. We also have an engineering division which designs projects, oversees projects, is responsible for traffic control and design and engineering design. And congratulations to Mike Caprella finishing up his 2 projects over the last 2 years. Now, our engineering division, we manage about 22 projects each year, and we actually design them, sell them, inspect them, and complete them, typically in 1 year. What I wanted what I actually came... There's some rumbling from the back. Probably is Mr. Caprell. Now that we've had a little bit of fun, the project that I wanted to talk about tonight is what we call the Bikeway Phase 5 project. And I brought some, I brought about a half a dozen of handouts that are maps of the entire project that you can pass around and share and take a look at. Everyone, I think, here is familiar with the Outer River Corridor Bikeway and Pedestrian Way. That was a project that we instigated probably back in 2011? No, earlier than that. It's been a long time. 2002? And that we've been working on for years and years. It takes a long time to design a project that large, find the federal, state funds for that, acquire right-of-way, and actually construct it. If anything, we've been persistent over the last 12 years building that. What people are asking us now is, that's a great asset, but how does our neighborhood, either farther to the south of the Outer River or up in the northern reaches of our community, how are we to enjoy that bikeway? So what we have set out to do, and what we have already begun, is to create a bike plan for the entire community, finding ways to interconnect various neighborhoods to the core of the Outer River corridor. Phase 5 is going to be a collection of creation of bike paths and establishing streets to be bike routes that will connect neighborhoods to parks, neighborhoods to schools, neighborhoods to the Outer River corridor itself. And the project that we have funded at about $1 million, we are in the right-of-way phase of buying the right-of-way needed for two of these important connectors. The one connector will connect the bike loop in Martin Luther King Park. It will extend south to the business park, Liberty Commons Business Park, and there is a park already established in Liberty Commons, Central Point, known as the Buttonbush Nature Preserve. We were able to purchase a piece of property there that has species of buttonbush which are rare to this area. We are picking up an additional 6 acres, so we will have a 12-acre park in Central Point Business Park when we are complete, with a path connecting from that point to Martin Luther King Park. Going south from this point, we have found a way to connect the Martin Luther King Loop to 4th Street and then wander up through existing streets to Cook Park. By uses of the streets, it'll be a bike route. We will cross Cook Park and then head north on Prospect, where eventually it will connect with the Outer River Bikeway. So now these neighborhoods will be able to use paths and low-volume streets to get to shopping destinations, schools, and such. At the same time, part of Phase 5 is a way to connect the existing bike route along Cole Street. It's a multi-purpose path on Cole Street from Robb to Brower, and that will be extended south to Feeman Avenue, and then from Feeman Avenue it will utilize streets to go southward and connect to the Outer River Bikeway. So what you have here is each packet. You'll have to flip page by page and you'll actually see the entire route of where these streets are going. This year we are in the right-of-way acquisition phase. So we are doing the design, we're purchasing property. The project will be sold next spring and actually constructed next spring. Further out, we're looking at establishing more bike routes through other various points of the city. This year you've seen with the project that created Elm and Spring Street two-way traffic. Spring Street was our first introduction to the Sharrows. A Sharrow is a street that doesn't have a dedicated bike lane, but there is paintings on the surface, there are signs on the edge of the streets telling motorists and bicyclists that these lanes should be shared by both cyclists as well as vehicles. So it is a determination of how wide, how much pavement we have. If it's wide enough, we can make it into a Sharrow. If it's even wider, then we can have, you'll see communities with a dedicated white line in the right-hand lane for bicycles. We don't have that yet. We're looking at a couple of opportunities, potentially Main Street for that. And then you'll see other bike routes creep up over the years. We are dedicated to implementing a plan that probably is going to take us 4 or 5 years to implement the whole plan. A lot of this is aimed at just making different modes of traffic feasible in our community, as well as the wellness and the Activate Allen County initiatives. This is also pushing us forwards to make sure that we as a community stay active and healthy. So with that, I'll stop. If there's questions, I'm more than glad to answer. Yes, sir? The question is, have we made any progress with the railroad crossing at Cable? You're referring to the CF&E line. We have met with the railroad. We have met with various transportation representatives in the county. We have petitioned the Ohio Rail Development Commission to assist the rail owner, CF&E, financially to make some corrections. What the proposal was and is by the rail company is to retire one of those 4 rails, so there would only be 3 to cross, and then to remake the crossings. It's very, very expensive. We're talking well over $1 million. I don't recall the exact figure at this point in time. The rail company asked us to help them ask the state of Ohio for some financing. They also are prepared to put some money into it, but they're arguing that they don't have sufficient funds to do all the maintenance themselves. Other question? Okay. Well, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Howard. And Amy Odom is our Director of Community Development. And while Amy's coming up, yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
I'm wondering if the reason we're having so much bike work there is because we have so many grown men in this community who don't have license, and is this the way to help them get around the city? Because you see a lot of grown people on bicycles.
Well, actually,
They don't have license, so they ride bikes everywhere.
It's actually intended to encourage all of us to bike. Literally all of us, to be able to get active, improve our health. But, you know, biking is often, at least in our community, since I've been here, it's generally seen as a leisure time activity. I think for all of us, we're trying to actually get folks in the mindset that if we make it safe and we promote it and we create places where bikes can be parked and lanes are dedicated, that ultimately people can rely on bikes rather than cars. And that has several effects. It reduces pollution in the community. It increases our personal health and well-being and keeps money in our pockets. So yes, I think it'll make it easier for those that already depend upon bikes as transportation, but I think we want to encourage more, particularly our kids. I mean, getting to and from our schools is now the primary method. I think the city schools have verified that most people are dropping their kids off. When I was growing up, You know, we can all tell stories about walking to school. I walked to and from, you know, and walking is good, biking is good. We want to encourage that for everybody, truly. Yes, ma'am.
I think this part, it might not be in Lima, but in other cities in Ohio, is the We Thrive program that Mrs. Obama started, that she wanted to encourage people to do more physical exercise.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've heard of the We Thrive program.
Right.
I haven't seen any We Thrive signs in Lima. I haven't seen any We Thrive.
I would say our
We are really strong, well, I'm here now, but in Cincinnati, it's a big thing. And I'd really like to see us get on board with that.
we have our version of that is what's called Activate Allen County. Activate Allen County is the effort that's underway, and it is looking at everything from nutrition to physical activity to public infrastructure that encourages both. So, Janice is well aware, and if you're interested in becoming involved, we can get you information about that. So, Ms. Odom, Amy?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, actually, if you go to the city building, we do have a bike rack, and it's kind of fun to see our chief city engineer in the winter drive his bike in the winter he actually has snow tires on his bicycle and comes in every day, and we have a few others. I have to admit, last summer I did it. This summer I don't know why. I haven't done it as often, but it's something. It's good for all of us, and I'm thrilled to see that the city is making a commitment to all of our health and to our children's recreational and well-being by making pedestrian and bicycle routes part of the whole transportation plan. When you think about that, in the past we always worried about cars, and now we're worrying about our health and better ways to travel. Things that are going to be better for our environment, better for the community, and better for our health. So I'm personally real excited about Activate Allen County. I'm Amy Odom. I'm Director of Community Development, and we run actually 6 different programs out of our department and manage over about $17 million worth of funds that come from 14 different sources, and we have about 23 different reporting systems that we have to use to keep track of that money. What that means is Howard and the chief and Rick spend the money. We're responsible for trying to attract that money and trying to make sure that the people who give us the money are happy with the way that we spend it. Additionally, we have programs that directly touch you, and those programs are such as our property maintenance code enforcement program, our neighborhood support program, our housing programs where we provide loans for purchase of homes as well as home repairs. We have our planning program, which is the zoning. Basically, even though zoning is administered directly by our building commissioner, we act as staff support. So if you need a lot split, if you want to combine lots, we manage that for you. Also, we have our land bank. The mayor mentioned that there's a lot of demolition that's been occurring in the city, which is creating a lot of lots. The Department of Community Development has tried to coordinate, because planning function is with us, where those are coming down to try to make larger pieces of parcels that are attractive for redevelopment. And basically, as you see those lots come available, we want to encourage you to think about how you might be able to use them. Many of them, depending upon what program we've used to take them down, are available for purchase for very little money, $250. If you're going to put that to a lot next to something you already purchase, you already own, or if you would like to build a home, those are available for you. So that's our land bank program, and something that's really beginning to take off. As more land is available, it's our job to make sure that we put it back into the hands of folks who can use it. So we continue to do that. If you have any questions, give us a call at the Department of Community Development, or the city's website has a lot of information about all the programs that we provide. Additionally, our department is also tasked with economic development, and we have some exciting things that are happening along those routes. I can't tell you about it yet, But in the next few weeks, I think there's some projects that will be announced occurring along South Main that will really impact the quality of your lives. Some things I've heard you asking for, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see if that comes together. There are other things that are going to help impact the quality of your neighborhoods as well that are going to be occurring. How many people have gone through our Care Academy? Couple people? That's great. And I hope you found it helpful. The Care Academy is something that the city provides that basically gives you all the information about all the different programs the city provides, how to access them, how they work. And when you take the program, what we ask is you use that information to help your neighbors. You become basically a neighborhood information specialist for your neighborhood area, and we found that to be very successful, getting information about all these programs out on a regular basis. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet a larger group of folks from around the city, but also if you are sponsored by your neighborhood association then receives funds for a neighborhood project if you complete the course. So talk to your neighborhood president. Do you know if you have anybody taking the program coming up? Maxine's going to take it. Wonderful. Great. Glad to have you. So that's coming up. Additional programs that we have coming up or are actually ongoing are things such as our housing repair and First Home Lima program. I personally, every time we give a report on our community development funds that we receive, I really feel that one of the best uses of our dollars is when we can take those monies and multiply them. Find a way to put a little bit of money into something and make it a larger project. With the funds that we put into our First Home Lima program, meaning down payment assistance of up to $10,000 to purchase a home in the city of Lima, we've leveraged millions of dollars of new home purchases in the city. So that small amount of assistance that you can receive, those dollars you can receive after you take some courses on how to do home improvement, how to manage a household budget, and how to make a good choice of a home for you, you can get up to $10,000 for down payment assistance. So if you have, if you are interested, or you know persons that are interested, again, contact our offices. Code enforcement is the program that probably is the most visible. We manage over 4,000 complaints a year. Everything from weeds, trash, grass, buildings unfit for habitation, and board up. You have an inspector dedicated to your area. Her name is Krista Sprouse. If you haven't met her, you probably will. She takes care of most of this area and is doing a wonderful job, we think, in trying to be responsive to your needs. If you have a complaint, please call us. One of the things that we find often are people say, well, I know I talked to somebody, but they maybe didn't talk to the right department, or the information has not gotten to us. We can only cut weeds, we can only pick up trash, we cannot paint someone's house or put up the gutters for them. But what we can do is we will work with them, if possible, to make those repairs. If not, they will be cited and fined. The largest number of problem properties we have are vacant properties. So you have to understand it is difficult sometimes to find those owners, but we make every effort to do so and hold them accountable. We put on property taxes. Basically, if they don't pay their fines, if they don't pay for cutting the grass, which is costing you out of pocket, it does go on their property taxes, and we make an effort to collect that. So when people are not cutting their grass as good neighbors, first we'd ask that you talk to them and say, is there a problem? Can we get you assistance in getting that done? But if not, give us a call, and the city will go ahead, provide proper notice to them, and then take action to try to correct the problem. Again, 4,000 complaints. I really have, when people ask how many people we have inspecting, I have to share that even though we have 3.5 inspectors, they all have other jobs. They're all doing other things as well. So the amount of complaints that get processed out of people who are only doing this about half of the time, realistically, I think is pretty impressive. So I guess I want to invite you to participate in the neighborhood programs that we have, our housing programs. And if there's anything we can do to help you, please give us a call, because that's what we're there for. Thanks. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Concerning the absentee landlords, how long do you give them, and what happens if they never contact?
If there is a structural problem with the house, if it needs painted, the roof's bad, if no one's living in it, if it's vacant, We give them notice, and they're given a reasonable period of time. I'm not going to ask someone to paint their house in the winter, but normally it's a reasonable period of time to take care of the problem. If it's not taken care of, they receive a $350 fine, and they will receive up to $205 fine per month until it's taken care of. We make every effort to try to contact them. Again, if they are not contacted, or we cannot reach them, it goes on their taxes. Eventually, if they don't take care of it and it keeps going on the taxes will rise, and it then becomes eligible for a tax sale or foreclosure. And that's where our land bank has been very effective. If there are properties in your neighborhood that have been abandoned, no one's taking care of them, give us a call. We might be able to find out, is this property eligible for a land bank sale? Also, we've been very fortunate in partnership with the Public Works Department, who really does the demolitions. They're the ones who actually go out and take that effort in doing more demolition. So give us a call. We'll see if we can make that property available to you if it's tax delinquent, and we'll continue to try to attract more demolition money to take some of these down. Normally, prior to these funds, the City of Lima only had funding to take down about 5 to 7 a year, plus those which were taken down by owners. Taking down over 250 in the last 2 years has been very exciting. Those funds will continue through the end of this year, and we're hoping for some additional state funding next year. So we'll continue to work through that.
So we need to just police our own neighborhoods.
Always. The first line of defense is always getting to know your neighbors and working with your neighbors. You have evidence of this right here with the Martin Luther King Neighborhood Association, and we're delighted to be in partnership with them. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to remind people that through the Community Development Block Grant, the health center, when we were very in the first year and then our second year, when we really had very few grants and very little money, we got Community Development grant
Sure.
through with Amy and the mayor. So it was really vital to us even starting and being able to
Correct.
now hopefully expand. So.
Correct. Yeah.
This is our 10-year anniversary, so I'm all ready.
Okay, so I want to thank Janice for recognizing the CDBG funds that have gone into the center early on. Those funds, quite frankly, continue to diminish, and we have to continue to find ways, like I said, to match funds, find other funds, and find a way to leverage more dollars into the community. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any city programs that work with, that can help the community work with some landlords?
Well, our code enforcement the question is, do we have programs that work with slum landlords? Absolutely. The City of Lima, when we're made aware of landlords that have repeat problems with their properties, we do. In fact, we work very closely with our law department. Those properties can be evaluated to determine if there's a public nuisance issue. I think we've been pretty effective. Property maintenance code enforcement has existed for about 20 years. And what we have found is the landlords that are the largest problem are those that have a small number of units, 5 to 7 units, because they don't have the time to take care of them. The larger ones, if they're getting Section 8, are required to take training through Metropolitan Housing and are continuing to work to try to professionalize them so they aren't slumlords. But if they're slumlords, we need to hear about it, and we'll do what we can to pursue them. Yes, ma'am.
Will you ever be building any more of those apartments, the Shirley Daily apartments? Will you be building any more of those?
Aren't those wonderful, the Shirley Daily apartments? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
I think you should have some that the people can afford themselves too.
Mm-hmm.
They go by income.
Right.
We like to have something nice too.
Absolutely.
Just low income and things like that.
So the question is, are we going to build more apartments at a market rate? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, $2 too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you could afford it, why can't you get in it?
Right. It's a very good question. The availability of housing in Lima and a bigger range of housing choice. What you're talking about is not only, but I'm thrilled to hear you say we need more housing that provides more choice based upon income. Absolutely. That is one of the things that we continue to do, is work with developers to see what we can do to bring in more housing choice. There's been some very interesting discussions lately with different developers and different housing models. Smaller homes, high quality smaller homes on smaller lots are the things that we're hearing that people want more of. And we're working with a variety of different developers to try to see where we might be able to find them land from the land bank and other things to bring them in. So if we can find some developers and attract them, we're going to continue to do that. So absolutely, it's conversations that continue.
And I think the last person is Chief Martin from the Lima Police Department. And Chief Hefner sent me a note earlier that he was not well and he was heading home. So I think, Kevin, you're our last speaker. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to say you saved the best for last, except Mike's already been up here. Well, good evening, everyone. First of all, I, as with all of these, seem to have a lot of personnel changes to talk about with the police department. If many of you may have already heard recently that we had a retirement of Major Tony Swigert, which I will tell you on a personal level is one I hated to see go because, again, he was a very valuable member of the police department, and so it was disappointing to see him go, but he had another job opportunity that he chose to pursue, and so certainly wish him best there. But that has created a vacancy in the major's rank, and so there will be a competitive process conducted in order to fill that position from the eligible candidates that we have within the police department, and that process is going to be proceeding. Which, of course, then when that position's filled, that will create a lieutenant's position. So we'll also be giving or having a competitive process conducted for the lieutenant's position as well. We currently have a list already for sergeant, so the vacancy will be created when the lieutenant is promoted. That we actually already have covered. But ultimately, that all trickles down to the street level. And I know that our HR director, Vince Ozier, had mentioned earlier about the police test that is going to be coming up that we do not quite have the date yet for. But that information will be coming out on the City of Lima's website. So I would ask that you please, if you know anyone at all, if there's anyone in here that's between the ages of 21 and 34, that may be interested in becoming a police officer, or if you know anyone at all in that age range that thinks they might want to be a police officer, please, and I'm not going to start asking how many are within that age range. I see some. Well, that is actually something that's established in the Ohio Revised Code. That's not a rule that we've come up with. That actually is in the Ohio Revised Code. So that is the purpose behind that. Well, I think actually a lot of it has to do with the fact that with the way the retirement system works and whatnot, they don't want someone that is a patrolman, a patrol officer, waiting to retire, pushing 70. You know, and I have to admit, if it were my wife, I'm not at home, and my wife's calling for help, I really wouldn't want a 70-year-old coming to help rescue her. So, I mean, I think it is with good reason that they do that. But if you have anyone at all that you know of that may be interested in becoming a police officer, please encourage them to keep an eye out on the website. Also, next week we will be announcing a number of dates and times for some recruiting and information sessions that we will be putting on. Again, anyone that's at all interested in taking the civil service test for police officer, I would strongly encourage that they come out to the recruiting and information sessions, because in addition to giving some basic information about pay, benefits, that type of thing, we will also be giving some instruction on how to better prepare for the test and sites that people can go to take practice exams in order to better prepare themselves for that test so that they will score higher in that process, and again, that they'll be much more likely to pass the test. Now, once that whole process is done and we receive the eligibility list from the Civil Service Board, we are looking at hiring a minimum of 4 positions from that test, and with just the way that the retirement process works and whatnot, during the time that list will still be good, there will, I'm going to say almost certainly, be additional positions besides the 4 that we're looking at hiring initially from that list. So again, if you know of anyone, have them take the test, please, because again, if they don't come out and take the test and participate in the process, no matter how good or how qualified a candidate they may be, we cannot hire them. They have to participate in the civil service process. Now, I guess that's really the only thing I wanted to touch on, Mayor, but if there is anyone at all that has any kind of questions or concerns about the neighborhood, I will be here after the event and will be happy to talk to anyone, field any concerns that you have, take any information that you have about, might have about crime problems within your neighborhood. Oh, okay. Well, actually, I think that's a very good question and some very good points that you raised there. I will say that actually we are very active in trying to engage in community activities. LACNIP sponsors the quarterly Coffee with the Cops. In June we had the most recent one, which it's one that we hope to repeat that particular method of event. We're hoping to repeat once a year, and that is actually we had a big variety of displays and in addition to officers to just speak to, but we had demonstrations. For instance, the Sheriff's Department had their mounted posse. We had members of our bike team. We had our members of our K-9 unit out there. Again, things for the families to bring their kids to, so that the kids could get to talk to officers and about what police officers do. And also at the same time, there were members both from the police department and the sheriff's department that we were there to speak to people. So again, if they had crime issues or anything like that, they could come in a very non-hostile, non-threatening way to talk to us. Well, and again, each time we have one, it's being moved to a different area of town. McDonald's is helping sponsor them, so each time it's at a McDonald's, but this last time it was in the North End, and Nell, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, the next one will be east? West side, okay, and then maybe east. Again, as it gets closer to the event, we'll be putting out more information on that. Also, we just recently had the National Night Out, which again was another very wonderful event that LACNIP sponsored and helped put together. And we had a number of officers and a number of demonstrations and things there. We are also, actually, I hope I'm not out of line, Mayor, for talking about the Coca-Cola Day, is an event that okay, well, it's an event that we're trying to look at, possibly being able to put something on. Again, I guess the bottom line is, though, that there are a lot of activities that we're involved in. One thing I will tell you, as far as getting the positive word out there, we do have a Facebook page. And also, we participate in Twitter. So for those of you that are more computer savvy than I am, you know, feel free to find us and like us on Facebook, and that way you can be connected to that. But even in addition to that, our Facebook page is connected to the Lima News Facebook page, so they're automatically getting these events. As soon as we make the announcements on Facebook, they're out there. So I would absolutely agree with you. We need to be involved. I should probably mention we have been involved in a couple events this summer at the Cheryl Allen Center. Just a few blocks from here. And in fact, I'll mention the Cheryl Allen Center is one of the locations where we're going to be having a couple of the recruiting and information sessions at. So again, we are trying our best to try to get out into the community, not just expect people to come to us when they've got problems, concerns, or issues they want to talk about, but we are trying to get out there. So, but I appreciate you bringing that up. And now,
the funding for what we had a long time ago when we had facilities set up like in the village and different places, where does that money come from? Is that money that needs to be secured to come in for the community policing? That was an awful good program, and it built a better cohesiveness with the community and the police department.
Yeah,
It really worked.
and I would absolutely agree with you that the community officers were a good thing when we had them. The problem was at the time when we had the community officers and the precinct stations, we actually had 98 police officers at the time. Currently, we are budgeted for 77. And actually, we have fewer than that because of the ones we've lost this year through attrition. I believe we have it as, I think, 73 at this time, actually working the street. So, unfortunately, we do not have the staffing or the number of officers that we need to be able to conduct the. No, again, at the time when we were doing that, truthfully, we had. Yes, it was under President Clinton. And actually, we had a larger general fund budget then, as well as much more federal monies available to us than what we currently have. So it's one of those things that it would be great if we could bring it back, but I don't know where the funds are going to come from. But I will also say, though, that a lot of people equate community policing with the neighborhood officers. That was one aspect of community policing that was very successful for us when we had the resources to be able to make it happen. But we have never abandoned community policing. The real idea behind community policing is the police listening to the community, trying to find out from the community what it is that you want, not what we think you want, in the way of police services. And so that's, again, where, going back to your comments about needing to be out in the community more, that's one of the reasons why we're trying to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we want to have more positive interaction with the community. That is one of the reasons why I like to be able to be involved in this particular event each time it happens. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have lots of training?
Yes, we do.
And how often is that, and where do you go?
Well, if you would want to possibly contact me, I can connect you with the right person on that. But yes, because off the top of my head, I can't tell you when the next one would be. But like I said, I can make the connection for you to get you that information. Okay. Well, again, if anybody has anything else they'd like to talk to me about afterwards, I will be sticking around. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. We have a couple of staff that weren't able to join us, but and sometimes counselors are also able to join us for this. So we appreciate being here. I might just wrap up with a couple of comments about some special efforts that are underway. A number of you, I know that a comment was made earlier about the sewer bill. The city has been aggressively pursuing more affordable approaches to the demands that the federal government is making on us. And to give you some sense of what that is, the original tact that the federal government actually took was to have us consider the possibility of completely separating our sewers. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with sewers, but it was kind of touched on earlier. There's two kinds. One only has storm water, and another has sanitary. Okay, it's what our toilets are hooked up to. And in some communities, particularly the newer communities, like the north end of town, the west side, those are already separated pipes. So there's two pipes in the ground. In the center part of our community and in the southern part of our community, there's one pipe in the ground, and that's what's called a combined sewer. 2/3 of our community has combined sewer, a single pipe. And so the first demand from the feds was that we separate it all, which the forecast at that time was, this was I think 10 years ago when we had to do this assessment, it was over $400 million. And we of course said, no, there's simply no way. So we have been working at this set of issues for a long time. And in addition to doing that, we're also making progress on improving our river. Our river has greatly improved in its quality. We went from 15 years ago when over 2/3 of the river was in non-attainment, meaning it was really extremely bad for both our community, for the wildlife, and it met none of the federal regs. And in the last 15 years, principally as a result of what we've done on the river with what are called combined sewer overflows, we have now transformed the river from being 2/3 out of compliance to nearly 80% in compliance. It's a huge, huge benefit. So that's why you now see heron, those big long birds with the long legs. That's why you now see lots of people catching fish on the river. That's why you now see lots of turtles on the river. I mean, the river has truly come back in an amazing way. And we've done that with a relatively small amount of money. But to get that last 10 to 15% improvement that the feds are demanding, as Mr. Caprella said, is expected to cost $150 million. And that's what we are working to, if not reduce the amount, at least give us more time to accomplish so it is more affordable. This is a hostile legal process. Okay? We are being treated as polluters by the feds. Okay? Well, what we're doing is we're a community that has systems that are built, and you can't change those overnight because there's not an unlimited pocketbook. There's not one of us that lives in a palace that takes care of itself. Okay? We live in a community that requires maintenance. It requires improvements over time, and that's what we're doing. So the sewer bills will continue to go up. There's no question about that, because we have to pay for these things. And it's being forced on us to do. We're trying to do it in a way that truly is least impactful for our community, but there's no choice because there's no other money other than our customers' money to pay for it. So I wanted to just be clear with everybody that this is something we are actively engaged in literally every day, trying to work solutions and do it in a way that is affordable to families, is affordable to businesses and industries, because we don't want to lose jobs also as a result of those bills being too expensive. Any questions about anything else that either was touched on or other things that you have on your mind? The groundhog issue. The groundhogs were here first. The answer is we have no program to deal with groundhogs. I've got them in my yard, and there's nobody I can call but me. Okay. And not as the mayor, just as Berger, who lives at 1211 Lakewood. We also don't have a program to deal with raccoons. And the other morning I walked out about 6:05. I didn't have my glasses on yet. I looked out my back window and something moved. And there were 3 raccoons. Once I got my glasses on, I was just sipping my coffee, and there's 3 raccoons. There's nobody for me to call about those raccoons. So these are nuisance animals, and there is no good solution for them. I can tell you that the city has just recently started a partnership with the Humane Society to deal with feral cats, okay, the wild cats that are out and about. And that is to, there is again, it's a partnership. It's an experiment to see how it goes. And the Humane Society is asking folks to use a live trap, capture those cats, take them to the Humane Society where they will be neutered at no cost to you, and then they will be released. And then they'll die through the natural process, but they won't propagate anymore. Okay? So that is one approach that's now being taken to one type of nuisance animal. But at this point, we have no solution for groundhogs, possum, raccoons, and the like. Squirrels, chipmunks. Right. Pardon?
When there was a lot of digging going on, like the Vine Street underpass, where the Rigger School was, I think that unearthed a whole lot of those.
It disturbed a number of those animals. Got them migrating.
But I had one that really was a nuisance to me, so my son bought me a cage and I set it out to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
I caught a coon. Didn't even know I had no coons around there too, but I caught a coon. And I called the city, because I didn't know what to do with this coon. And I asked them, you know, because the little boy across the street said he'll shoot him with the BB gun. But they told me if I shoot that coon, I can get fined because he wasn't coon.
I don't believe there is a raccoon season. Let me ask the chief just a moment. Chief Martin, the question is, can a private individual dispose of, shoot a raccoon?
The answer to that is not in the city limits. But if you go outside the city limits, then you can dispose of a nuisance animal that way. Again, there are other methods, though, of doing that. Also, there are people that you can find. I don't have a listing with me right now off the top of my head or anything, but there are people who will, for a fee, trap nuisance animals and get rid of them for you, so that way you do not have to worry about them.
All right.
They say you have to take it and let it back out in the wild. And I'm like, let this animal out.
Any other questions? Again, I want to thank Janice for having us here tonight. I want to thank this is a great group, great showing tonight. Thank you for being here, and thanks for questions and comments.